Testing 1, 2, 3, and we are live. My mic looks like it has a good level. Bronze Dragon here. Thanks for dropping by. Going to talk about this week's happenings mostly in Splinterlands, but we can address Golem Overlord and Splinterforge as well, depending upon what everybody wants to talk about. Thanks for dropping by, though. I do want to kind of keep this kind of upbeat and forward-looking as far as our attitude. I don't really want this to become a complaint fest because I feel that just kind of really, it's really a waste of time. We're at a position in the game where we all just have to decide what we're going to do going forward with the changes, and everybody, the decision's going to be a little bit different for everybody. So what I want to start off with is just kind of, we can look at what was the town hall, but obviously the main point of this week and the main discussion factor has been the implementation of, when it comes in down the road, the implementation of staking rewards versus card power. And obviously it was announced in the white paper, but some people in my last video had pointed out that maybe I didn't see something, but I had not seen, and it's been a while, maybe late 2022 last time I referenced the white paper, but I had not seen any numbers attached to the staking rewards. That's not staking rewards, staking amounts to receive full R shares. And there's a lot of variables around that. What you get as an R share, how that's going to be affected by the pool size. So there's a lot of variables, and a lot of people have been pointing out that the pools will obviously change as people move up. More than likely, most people are moving down in pools. And I mentioned in a video yesterday that especially with the other major change upcoming, the change where they're going to implement some form of bot bans, when that comes into play in modern, how that will affect. Mostly the way I see it is bronze and silver in wild. Okay, so logically speaking, I think that as the bot bans go into effect, whatever they implement to keep to kind of get all the bots out of modern, what we'll see is those players playing in bronze and silver wild. We'll see an influx of a lot of bots and a lot of players into those two pools. And what will happen is your rewards are going to shrink if you play in those two pools because you have a lot more people drawing off the same pool. I think that's just logical. If anybody sees any problem with that logic, please call it out. But how I want to move forward today is kind of talk about, hey, what have you done this week? Hey Ghostly, thanks for dropping by. Ghostly BG says the pools might change, but we will receive a lot less cards. This point only gamers seem to get. Yeah, I had brought that up in a couple of my videos because, and I was talking to a few other people about this. The SPS I've received in chests over the last couple of years has been kind of minimal. Okay, now this last week has been a one-off because I got 2 nice chests, but those are really the only nice chests of SPS I've gotten over the last couple of years. And nice, I consider, above like 25, But my to your point is I mostly play to get chests with cards in them that improve my deck, improve the strength of my deck. Okay, so potions, I've got tons and tons of potions. Do they help out when you open packs? Yes. And now, since the changeover, they do help somewhat when you open chests, right? Or they're supposed to. I do like, I do. Let's check this out. I do like going in, and I like the chests that give you the merits, which once again goes back to my point, helping out with cards to improve my deck, because I like it as buy sell, buy and collect cards, play the card game. So I guess my main point is I don't necessarily look at the chests for SPS. If one comes through with a decent amount, that's fine, but overall they're just kind of minimal. As I've referenced in a few different videos, I've never drawn any SPS off the game for profit. I've gone 2 years, or I've played 2+ years, and however long SPS has been incoming, I've just turned that over and staked it, right? And to this point, I ended up with about 10,000. Okay, so I agree with you. But that also brings up the kind of looking at the game as a whole. I was talking to my wife about this week, and as a whole, it seems like there's a large portion of people in Splinterlands that are mostly just investors. Okay, well, I don't want to say a large portion. I have no numbers to back this up. My feelings are, you have a certain percentage at the top, maybe 10 or 15% of people, maybe 20%, that consider this an investment, right? And they've come in, they've gone whole hog, they've put a lot of money into SPS, and before that into DEC, and buying really nice high-end cards and such, and licenses for nodes and such. And then you have the people at the bottom that are coming in, and they're playing it. They would like to make a little bit, but a lot of us are playing it as a card game. So, and sometimes, especially in these big matters, there's a little bit of friction because everybody has an opposing viewpoint. So, and Ghostly says, yep, absolutely, neither do I. SPS is a nice bonus, but the cards are what I'm interested in earning. Yeah, and I do agree that looking at the changes that are going to be implemented with staking, I've looked at a lot of people's videos this week and consumed it, and I didn't really get any surprises this week as far as what people's opinions are. Generally speaking, I think that a lot of people are very clear on their motives and what they've done. In other words, if you've come into the game, spent a lot of money on SPS, and you're going to be all for this change, right? If you've come into the game and kind of, in my instance, I didn't put really a whole lot of money at all into SPS. I was putting money into cards to play the game, right? So, and people called me out. They're like, "Hey, you're wrong. It's always been in the white paper." Yeah, it has been in the white paper. I agree with that, and maybe I should have been looking at that more intently. But I wasn't really sure how much we were going to need. And my emphasis was always on strengthening my deck, trying to get to that next level. So Ghostly says, a large portion of the people whose voice matters are 100% investors. He's been on the Mav chat long enough to know that. I don't attend the Mav chat. So yes, I would agree. Okay, so I've went over this a few times in the past. It's almost like, the people whose votes are the strongest, obviously, are the people who have more SPS invested or staked, right? So it does seem that the people that make the decisions for the game maybe don't even play the game, okay? Maybe I'm wrong. And it's also been a little bit of derision within me that most of us, our votes really don't even matter. Okay, so if you only have 10 or 15,000 SPS staked, in the end run, it probably doesn't even really matter which way you vote, because people with 1 million SPS pretty much, or above 500,000, those are the votes that count, right? So it is what it is. I'm not arguing whether it's fair or not, right? I'm just pointing out the way I see it. Okay, so kind of to get the conversation going, I see we've got a few people coming on. Thanks for dropping by. Don't be afraid to leave your opinion or voice a fact if you feel that I'm wrong on something, because, you know, I'm wrong all the time on things, right? I'm just trying to present a show and my point of view, the way I'm playing and the way things are going to hopefully help a few people out. But we can all learn going along. I do ask that people be, you know, nice about it, and maybe we can learn something through conversation, right? So the question I want to pose to you right now is, with the information that was dropped this week, and after watching videos from different people and getting different facts and figures and everything, what have you done with your account this week? Okay. I put out a video last night which was titled "Where Do I Go Now?", which was kind of a forward-looking statement of, or question of, which I've been thinking about all week. And frankly, if you watch the video, you know I've been stressing out about it, because to me, the several $1,000s I put into the game is a large investment. It's not a large investment to some other people that may have $30, $40, $50, or $100,000 in the game. I understand that, but everybody has a personal level of finance as far as funding you can put into the game that you feel safe and secure putting into the game. Because obviously, I think it's logical to say that you shouldn't put an amount of money into the game over what you feel comfortable losing. And I think that also applies to any other investment, right? But to me, that's just logical. But with that said, I did make a couple changes this week. Okay, I've said a few times that I'm not going to be buying large portions of SPS to stake. However, this week I did buy $35 worth of SPS to stake. Okay, I also made a few changes to kind of funnel some different funds into SPS that previously I was using for other things. So to give you an example, I play, if you watch my videos, you know I play Splinterforge, I play Golem Overlord, and I also interact with the GLS, with the GLX token. I don't plan on playing Genesis League Soccer, but I'm still turning over those tokens, staking, and then funneling some out. And at this point, I've changed to, you know, selling those tokens and turning them into SPS to stake. Now, Ghostly BG says, I bought $450 worth of cards this month because the prices are just too good. First of all, I agree. I wanted to bring that up at some point today. From a card player's perspective, the prices on the cards are looking very nice. And I will note also from a landowner's perspective, the cards that you're looking towards purchasing or purchasing already to stake on the land look very attractive. I've actually been buying DEC this week because I still need 210,000 for land. I agree with that as well. In fact, that was one of the things I need to do today later on, is buy some more DEC. I do kind of approach it from buying small portions at a time. That's just the way I do it, to try to keep my budget in balance. But I did, let's take a look for a minute. If you're not familiar, if you haven't watched Hawks 21 videos, he is pairing up with another developer, and apparently that developer's name is Brave Tofu. Their names are here at the bottom. And they're making a new site, relatively new, called Splinter Guide. And he does have a few videos where he mentioned it. But it's a nice compilation of things that we as Splinterlands players reference on a daily basis. So I just came over here. Basically, they have a lot of stuff as far as monsters, summoners, abilities, sorting cards by their power and their rating. If you're looking at, hey, what should I upgrade? And, you know, I'm new to this league. What should I look at upgrading? Stuff like that. very good as far as that goes. But on this page, they have the coin market cap crawler up here with all the stuff we might be interested. But here we see that DEC is actually down on the week. So if you needed to buy DEC, this might be a good time to buy. It's also down over the month. Not quite at its lowest point on a 3-month period, but you get the idea. It's down. So if you do need DEC, which I do, and if you have land, you're going to need DEC. And I believe the rough numbers, obviously the numbers go up and down depending upon if you stake maximum level cards, which I don't really know why you wouldn't unless you had a lot of lands. I can see that if you had a lot of lands, you might want to, I don't know, stake half level cards. But anyway, a fully level card staked is going to be 10,000 DEC. So think about that. Gathering the Magic says, good morning. What's the topic for today? I'll give you one guess. The topic is, what did you do this week after you got the full news on Monday about the actual numbers involved with staking requirements to move forward in the game? And I had said earlier, but I'd like to keep this forward-looking and kind of an upbeat conversation. What are you going to do? What's your plans? That kind of thing. I don't want this to devolve into a complaint fest because I don't feel that goes anywhere. Exploding Rat, thanks for stopping by, says, I'm a collector, so I've been accumulating chase cards. Chase cards. Can you expound on what you mean by chase cards? I'm a collector also, and one of my favorite things I like doing is buying cards, increasing the strength of my deck. In fact, I do have a evolving beta alpha collection of cards. Let's go over here. I got to switch to my one thing. If you've been watching my videos, you know I buy one alpha card per week, and that's kind of my guilty pleasure as a collector. I buy it 1 BCX just because I want to have some alpha cards, right? So let's look at what I actually bought this week. Maybe not interesting to anybody else, but here is my alpha collection so far. And let's sort by rare because the one I bought this. Okay, so this week I bought a Twisted Jester. And like I said, usually you would find me doing a video, usually until I got a lot of my rewards cards maxed out, because I think a lot of us have talked about this. There's great value in those rewards cards, right? If you're not a frequent watcher, you can look at. Some of these are the newer ones, but you can see a lot of these cards. Like, I don't want to go get too deep into it, but you know what I'm talking about. Jin Renova, Jin Chwala, Harclaw, Uraeus. These are the little bit older ones. One of my favorites, Jin Oceanus, Tidebiter. All these cards are relatively cheap and are very powerful cards. So. And Ghost, let's see here, trying to keep up with the comments. Gathering says, I'm staying the course, playing every day, staking my SPS, playing Splinterforge for added income, picking up a couple cards every day, not concerned about the staking requirements. Okay, interesting. I'm doing very similar to what you're doing. However, I'm funneling a lot of that fundage into SPS and staking instead of, I'm cutting back my card buying, in other words. Ghostly BG says the number one chase card on my list is level 3 or 4 Dr. Blight. I don't have a Dr. Blight. I need a Dr. Blight. It's on my list. I've always wanted one since he came out. And it seems like he beats me a lot. So, yeah, I need to look at one. We all have this list, right? So and it's I guess you guys are referring to it as a chase list. So good adjective. Might start using that. Okay. Gathering says, I think people are misinterpreting the numbers. You don't need that much SPS. It is just for 100% reward shares. But if a majority of the people are under those requirements, you will get fewer chests. This is correct. I do agree. That's why I've been trying to be very straightforward and state that when I talk about that, it's for max R shares. Okay. There have been, I forget who put it out, but there's another video where there's like a trajectory. Okay, so it's been mentioned, and I didn't know this up front. Shout out to one of my commenters from the video yesterday, and sorry, I forget your name, but it's been mentioned that it's not proportional. Okay, so it's logarithmic, if you understand. So just for instance, if your league requires 20,000 SPS to be staked and you only have 10,000, it doesn't mean you're getting 50% of the R shares. Okay, it could be that you're getting 18%. Okay, it's on a gradual curve, and that curve is always changing, like you said. Okay, the curve can be changed by how many people are in the pool, because people move in and out of pools, right? It will be changed. The other variable, like you said, is the other people in your pool, how much do they have staked? Because if they have half of what you staked, you still are getting a better percentage, right? So there's a lot of variables at play here. I'm never going to pretend like I'm a math guy. I hate doing all this math. I just want to play cards. I just want to feel like I'm getting a decent amount of rewards for what my investment is and playing is. So, but good point. Exploding Rats says, well, mostly Fiends, Legendary Chaos Legion cards. So yeah, I think that Ghostly BG kind of told me what a chase card means. You know, you have this list of cards you want to get. I do agree. Legendary Chaos Legion, I had a goal of getting Fiends. I've got them all at level 1. I don't necessarily know if there's a reason to take them above level 1. This is kind of a side conversation, but the card player in me always wants to get on those side conversations. So right off, if you have a valid reason for telling me why you need more than a level 1 Chaos or Fiend, let me know. Other than that, I do agree, and I do have a full set of Fiends. I think I have one for every Splinter, obviously, except for Neutral, which they don't have one in. So anyway, if you have a reason for having a higher level Fiend than level 1 for its purpose, let me know. I'm always interested in strategy. So Gathering says, but the chests will have a higher amount of SPS since the daily SPS reward pool isn't changing. Yeah, like I said, there's going to be a lot of variables at play here, and obviously that's kind of, I guess one of my main points was I stressed about this for several days. I put that what I consider an explosive video, because I really hate getting on here and just ranting and stuff like that, but I felt like I had to in that consideration, but it left me feeling bad. In fact, I went over it a few times, and I was just really not sure, should I put it out? I even let my brother see it before I put it out, and he's a good advisor to me, because he's in the Splinterlands as well, and he's a big what I consider, he invests more in the game than I do, and he came in after I got him into the game, so I take his word. But I put it out, but I kind of want to stay forward looking and just planning. I felt that I spent too much time worrying, and I don't need that in my life. I play a game to have fun and to relax after work. I don't have all day to sit around. Some days I work from home, and I can look at my hands and stuff like that during a break or something. But I don't have a lot of time to sit here and look at it all day long, or treat it as a stock market. Some of the guys on the top end, that's what they love. Hey, if that's what you're into, it's very much kind of like buying and selling stocks. If you're buying and selling cards, if you're staking massive amounts of SPS, it's very much of an investment. That's why I'm try to be clear to everybody I make videos that the way I come at it is, yeah, do I hope down the road that my cards make some money? Yeah, everybody hopes that, right? But do I get into it to put down 1 million SPS to stake it and earn the percentage? And that's not the way I look at it. So I feel I'm pretty clear on that. So let's see. Let me catch up here. Gathering the Magic says, Fiends are great cards, way too cheap. Now, Gathering, would you say there's a reason to have more than a level 1 of a Fiend? Because I would take that into, I think they do come in very handy, especially in low-level matches. Sometimes having that one extra mob, especially, terminology from MMOs. A mob is just like a monster, a non-playable monster, but maybe that's not a good reference. Having that one extra monster helps, especially in the current play where you have Martyr involved. You stick a Martyr in there, or you stick one of these cards that buffs the abilities around that. Stick one of those Fiends on the other side that can benefit from that buff, and you've got a good play value there, I think. There's a lot of strategy you can look at there. So I'm going to take a drink because my mouth is drying out. Look at what everybody's saying. Gathering says he needs a Dr. Blight too. Yeah, you know what? This last card that came out, the dual Splinter one, I looked at Dr. Blight because that was one of my main reference points that I was like, hey, I could, instead of buying her, I could just buy a Dr. Blight for less money. That's where I came in at. But yeah, I would like a Dr. Blight. First of all, the artwork's great, right? Second of all, Poison, what can you say? I mean, look back over, I think if you play in Gold or Diamond, and I don't have any experience in Champion, look at the hands you've lost to. As far as I am aware, I lose a lot of hands to Dr. Blight. So let's see here. Ghostly says Blight has an insane win rate. Yes, I agree. Just what I was just saying, because I lose to it a lot. Gathering says max Fiends for the buff, but only need that for Diamond and Champ. Okay. Just for sake of argument, let's look at okay, so here's a Fungus Fiend. Let's look at the stats. Okay. So yeah, he gets the slow at level 4. I've never been in a position to play a level 4. I've never been in Champ. So, I mean, it would help in Diamond, but I've never used it that way. Did they all get slow? No. Okay. So, Soul Fiend picks up speed, swiftness. Yeah, that's the one I was just on. Torrent Fiend picks up headwinds, reduces the ranged attack of an enemy monster. Yeah, I could see where those would come in handy, but I could also see those are kind of expensive to get that, but I can see where that would come in handy. Valid argument. So Corpse Fiend, it picks up silence. So yeah, I can definitely see your argument there. Let's see how much those are going for. Scorch Fiend, what does it pick up? It picks up, reduces the melee of enemy monsters. Sorry, I've just never looked at what each one picks up as you level them up. Let's see. So it takes 11 BCX. 11 BCX is going for 21 bucks. I would agree. That's a good value at this point. What can I say? Now watch me have to go out and buy max level score. Thanks, guys. So, okay, let's catch up with what everybody was saying. So Ghostly says, yeah, but as I said, I, for instance, will receive 70% less chests for playing in Champ 2, Champ 3. That means 70% less soulbound cards, basically. Yes. I had mentioned it, but I do believe we're all going to see a decrease unless you're in a good position with SPS and you've made SPS staking, a priority over the last year, and you're in a good position to stay where you're at instead of sinking. I think we're all going to see less chests, which means less soulbound cards. And extrapolate that, it's just going to be a lot harder to level your cards. So it's going to take a lot longer to get, like I'm saying, I'm just getting into the portion of time where I can start using the soulbound cards due to levels. They're just getting to the point where I can start using them, and they're usable in Gold 1, Diamond 3. So good argument. Gathering says, Fiends remind me of Moxes and Magic the Gathering. Zero cost cards are overpowered in general. Oh, that brings back memories. Yeah, I would agree. I like zero casting cards, casting costs, anything. I think that it's always good to have availability from a strategy perspective, to have that one extra card. Like I said a few minutes ago, sometimes a match just comes down to having that one extra card, right? Or that one extra that receives some kind of buff or something, from the other newer cards in play. That helps out. Also, in low mana matches, definitely having that one extra monster helps. So, Exploding Rat says, that's my thinking too. I'm a degen speculator more than a player, though. Hey, it's fine. One of the things I like about this game, it can be frustrating as well, is that it's exploded. Okay, there's so many different things you can play within Splinterlands. It's not just a card game anymore. There's several different aspects to it, and like I've always said too, that depending upon your budget, unless you're independently wealthy, good for you if you are, but I don't have money to play every different way. So that's why I'm kind of headed towards the land, and pulling back on the card investments for play, obviously, because some money needs to go into SPS staking, and I don't have infinite money. And the money I do, I feel like I'm going to focus it towards cards purchase for my land. That's kind of what I'm doing now. And I'm going to... I haven't decided whether I'm just going to manually play switch back. If you're not familiar, I have been using the Archmage bot. I still haven't considered, I have considered, I haven't made up my mind whether I'm just going to manually play in Modern or whether I'm going to shoot for Gold 3 in Wild and just let Archmage do its thing. I haven't made that major decision yet. Let's see here. Gathering says, but if you get 70% less cards, won't that mean a higher value when they are unbound and sellable? Possibly. If your argument is the fact that due to less cards being on the market, fewer cards get into play and therefore get into the ability to unbind them and sell them when that comes about, I would agree. That's a valid argument, right? So because we've seen the exact opposite in the prior rewards card set, there's just so many of them on the market, the prices are insanely low. So I would guess that the reverse of that would be true. But it would make it a little bit frustrating if you're trying to build up cards to play in gold or higher, because it would take an insane long time to build them up. So valid point though, Magic. Gathering says the harder they are to get, the higher potential sell value. Correct. I would agree. Ghostly says all fiends apply meta debuffs at the max level, so that's pretty nice. Yeah, I just went through that. Yeah, I mean, I learned something new today. I figured there might be something, but I never looked at that top level because frankly, most of my cards are at that level 3 as far as legendaries go. Yeah, a lot of them are level 1, level 2. But, you know, like the older rewards cards I've got, I did buy Izza. My intent for her was to stake her, and was going to use Jared Scar to stake too. But obviously all this is up in the air. Bought a Harklaw to stake, and, you know, I have one to play. But for the most part, most of my legendaries are not level 4. So that's why I really didn't look at that. Gathering says people play max fiends in Splinterforge against the diamond boss with maxed out heroes. Okay, I could see that. In Splinterforge, it's mostly about that buff or debuff. Especially, I saw the one fiend that gives you speed. Speed is the primary stat in Splinterforge. Anything you can throw in your hand that will speed up your hand, the better. Hey, Paul Taylor, thanks for dropping by. Ghostly says zero cost cards are often overpowered in Hearthstone as well. I think that a lot of games are that way. And I also think that's why they try to limit the amount of zero cost cards. Just for instance, the cost of fiends was way up there for quite a while. Let's look at, just for sake of argument, get off of alphas. Let's look at monsters, look at legendaries. To buy. Not summoners. Okay, so here's the cheapest fiend is a corpse fiend. $2 per BCX, it looks like. Let's look at the month. Look at what the price has done. I mean, this is a corpse fiend. If I look like I'm looking up, it's because I'm using the bottom part of my reading glasses. Old man bronze dragon here. Get off my lawn. Yeah, I mean, it was a high of $4.20 US down to $1.90 now. So you can pick up a max level corpse fiend right now for $21 US. But I remember back, you know, this represents a doubling, right? So, yeah, I agree. Great value in those cards. It's just I don't usually play high enough to use those. And, you know, you have a priority list. Everybody has a priority, different things that they want to get. Say, for instance, I want to get a Carnage Titan. Recently, I bought Coral Lurker, and I kind of want to get that to level 2 as well. But everybody has different their decks are in different status, and you need to get different things to buff it depending upon where you're going. Ghostly also says they will be more expensive for sure, but that's the whole point. Players want cards to play and not get instantly rich. It's true. A certain percentage of people are really into it play, like you and I. But there's also a certain portion of people that are here just to buy, sell, and trade, kind of like penny stocks or regular stocks, right? You know, so. Hey, Sean, happy Saturday. The question of the day and what we're talking about mostly is the happenings of the week. And what did you do? What changes have you made this week after you heard the exact figures they released that will be represent the staking requirements to get 100% base R shares? what moves did you make this week? So that's what we've been basically talking about, getting on sidetracks here and there. But so Gathering says, I can pick up a couple dollars in cards for my $10 account with Splinterforge earnings. Lots of beta commons I want to get after I get my Chaos Summoners all at the level 2. Yeah, if you all haven't watched, Gathering has a good line of videos going where he started a $10 account, and he's basically, increasing the strength of it, and he's been focusing on using Splinterforge earnings to buy various cards that increase the strength of the hands within the deck. So very good point. Like I said, I previously, one of the changes I have been doing this week is I had been taking profits out of, well, not profits, I've been taking GLX, I've been taking part token out of Golem Overlord, and I've been taking tokens out of Splinterforge. And I've been basically selling them on Hive for Hive and using Hive to buy various things. I didn't really have a focus. I just bought with it what I needed at the time. This week, I changed that over to basically exchanging those tokens for SPS, funneling them into the game to hopefully increase my bag a little bit quicker, so I can be a little bit better off when the change happens. So like I said, I have no problem doing that, but I'm not going to drop $1,000 into SPS or whatever. So Sean says, I have $0 to add to my SPS or cards right now, so just playing and earning what I can. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of my points was, there's a lot of people that, depending upon your budget, everybody has a different budget, and you've got to be logical with your budget. I think a certain amount of this it's a business thing. It's a psychological thing. They try to, they're a business, right? They're trying to get you to spend money, right? And a certain amount of that is almost like, buying packs and stuff it's almost like gambling. You get addicted to it. Trust me, I was there, Magic the Gathering for years, and I can't tell you how many times I went into a store and spent over $100 on a box of cards just to feel that rush, ripping open the cards and see what I got. You get the same effect, really, when you buy them here. That's a psychological thing, right? But if you're logical about it, you have to look at what your budget is, what you can afford, and it's not even what I can afford. Could I afford to put $1,000 into SPS? Yeah, I could. I'm not poor. I've been working my whole life. I'm 52 years old. I've got money in the bank. But logically speaking, my logic doesn't say, hey, Bronze Dragon, put $1,000 into SPS. And my wife would look at me like I was crazy, right? So everybody's got a different budget. You got to figure out what seems logical to you and just go with it. Sometimes you have to go on a hunch. But a lot of this is just gambling on variables that haven't been manifested yet. And frankly, a lot of this stuff, they're just making up in the background as they go along. Some stuff has been announced, but the exact facts and figures take a while to come into play. And, a lot of this is still considered in beta because it hasn't went live. So could it change? Sure. I don't know. I'm sure that from their point of view, they put a lot of study into this. I would hope they would before releasing the hard numbers. But could it change? Possibly. So Ghostly says, I sold my level 2 Curl Lurker to get my Agor Longtail to level 3. No regrets. Do you find, well, obviously from that statement, you find more value in Agor. I recently got a level 1 Agor Longtail, so I could take the same argument both ways because I like it too. But I don't know where the price goes, but take a look at that after a while, maybe after the show. I do like Agor Longtail. I'm not sure. I don't play it very often. I'd have to go back through the history and see how it's played and kind of the strategy behind playing it. But I know it's a nice card. And due to my name, I do love dragons. So I'd take any possible choice where I can go and improve my dragon hand to do so. So Gathering says, thinking of converting some forge into part and shards now to get ready to help our guild and level when that goes live. Yeah, I have to put some thought into that. We do have a spot open. If anybody is actively playing Golem Overlord, we have one spot in our guild open. And all I would ask is that you be a good, strong player and, intend on playing the game, right? You also need to buy a bench, which is relatively cheap. But let me know if you want to join. But yeah, to his point, they haven't implemented it yet, but it will be kind of expensive to increase the number of seats in the guild. So the max is 10 now. It'll go up 12, 14. It'll go up in even numbers, but you have to invest a certain amount, and it would require everybody pitching in. So good mention, though, and we'll have to discuss that. We can have a guild meeting and discuss it. I want it to be fair for everybody, but I can't afford to, plop it all down myself. Florian One Up, thanks for dropping by. I saw you commented on my video yesterday. I appreciate it. He says, I dropped you a graphic with the SPS requirements for the different percentages for each league on Discord in the SPL Tavern. Okay, I will check that out after this live feed is done. I do appreciate that. Anything, I'm not a perfect guy. I'm far from perfect, and I'm not here saying that I'm right on everything. So anything we can do to help each other out and get on the same page with what's actually happening and understand all these variables in action, I'm all for. And like I said, I love all the comments, good, bad, indifferent. I just ask everybody to be nice and try to use logic, present present what you're saying and a reason behind it. And we can all learn, right? Gathering says, I was so addicted to opening Magic the Gathering packs back in the day, I spent way too much money. Yeah, I agree. And for me, it was when I was in my early 20s. And I remember at the time I was in the Navy, I drove around my car and I had huge white cardboard boxes. You know what I'm talking about, in my trunk, just full of thousands of dollars worth of cards. And I could whip that out, go to a comic shop, play cards. I loved it. But even at the time, I realized I was addicted to it, right? So, but when you're in the middle of it, you're like, why not, Paul says, we have a little time to try to accumulate some more SPS. The staking won't go until July or August. Yes, that's a good point. Yes, this will not go live until later on this year. So we do have some time, and that's why I'm making changes to how I go about my daily business within Splinterlands now to hopefully allow more funneled in, because like I've said, I'm not going to plop down this big amount of money on SPS, but I am changing my activities to funnel more into SPS versus buying cards, which I had, and I love buying cards to increase the strength of my deck, but they've obviously, kind of pointed it towards SPS as far as one of the big factors for the game. Obviously, don't get me wrong, I agree that this is a great change. I was just very much surprised by the amounts involved. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So I think that they say, well, this will get rid of bots or whatever. It may, and it sounds logically like it would, but there's been 3 or 4 major changes over the last couple of years that have been specifically aimed at getting rid of bots, and it got rid of bots for a month or so, and then the bots were back because they figured out how to adapt. So let's just cross our fingers and hope everything goes for the better for those of us that want to be in the infrastructure and, play the game and, move forward. So Clevin, thanks for stopping by, says, I just upgraded max gold, most of the Splinter. Now I don't have SPS to play in Gold League. Now stuck between a rock and a hard place. I am at the same kind of position. My cards are mostly, I would say 3/4, really strong gold 1 cards. Archmage, and I feel that watching Archmage play and increasing the levels of certain key cards that you see that are strong allowed Archmage to take my account into Diamond 3 and sometimes into Diamond 2. I usually got beat back out of Diamond 2. I would be in for a couple matches, then I'd be out. But that's also a valid point that a lot of the YouTubers brought up. It was the inflation that basically people were playing way above where they should have been. So that's a whole other like discussion. I played like one league above where I should have been. So I think it's a valid argument that plays into this. But yeah, I feel for you as well. I have mostly max level gold cards. I was playing in Diamond 3 mostly, and I would get like a 10% reduction because of playing with lower cards kind of in that area. And now I'm going to be down. Really, I should be in Silver 1, but I'm not going into the Silver pool. I'm going to do what I can to play in Gold 3 at least, because I feel there's value in at least playing in that Gold pool. I agree, if you're new and you haven't been playing for long, you're going to play in whatever pool you can, right? But I think my point is, I think you want to get out, especially if you're playing in Wild. I don't think you want to be in Bronze or Silver in Wild. I think if you're new, you're definitely going to want to play Modern, play in Silver or Bronze or Silver, and get out, get out of those as soon as you can, because those are going to represent the pools that are most heavily populated. So, and whatever argument, we've talked about many variables today and over the last week. Whatever argument you're going to make about the different math involved, the more people in the pool, the lower the amount you're going to get. So let me see. Let me catch up. I've been talking a lot. Ghostly says, healing at level 3 for Agor is huge. Thanks for bringing that up. I will take a look at it because I do like that card. Clevin kicks in. Agor, just don't be hit with Giant Killer and Fury. Yeah. Well, every card's got a kind of defense against it. So, agreed. I'll have to take a look at that. Maybe we might do an in-depth little, maybe I might start doing a little short video, an in-depth look at a card and, do a 5-10 minute video on it and, do some matches. Good idea. I just had a good idea. Thanks for the prompting. So Gathering says, I sold all my white boxes of extra cards and some of my complete Magic the Gathering sets for Splinterlands. Splinterlands is Magic the Gathering 2.0 for me, and people will be amazed at how the game will suddenly explode like Magic did. Okay, so you want to hear a sad story? Too bad. Here it is. I started playing during Revised, right after Unlimited. By the time I stopped playing a few years later, seriously, I had an unlimited mock. I had all the unlimited mocks. Moxen, that's the plural. I had an unlimited Black Lotus. I had at least some 4 or 6 times all revised dual lands, and I could go on, but I had all this, and I sold it in the late 90s to buy a motorcycle. And then when I moved, I had to sell the motorcycle. So I was completely out of that. And don't even get, anytime I look up what a revised Black Lotus is going for now, I cry. Not literally, but I die a little bit inside, if you know what I mean. But I agree. One of the things that I loved about getting into Splinterlands is the fact that you can buy, sell, and trade cards so readily. You don't have to go down to a show. You don't have to go down and hang out at although I do like hanging out at comic shops, I still do. You don't have to do that, and you don't have to search around to sell your cards. You can just throw them up on the market here. So Gathering says, when it does, we will look back at this time and say, why are there so few cards, packs, lands? Yeah, I mean, that's all hopeful outlooking, and a lot of people are very forward-looking and very, I guess my personality is I don't think it's going to, not that I am not hopeful, but I'm just happy playing, and if at some point I can sell my cards when they're no longer needed and making a little money out of it, I would be happy. I'm just happy playing and getting a little value out of the game. I don't, like I've said, I don't look at it as, I mean, it is an investment, but I'm not going into it like stocks and bonds and stuff. Paul says, bots are a never-ending battle. It will be interesting to see how they go about getting them out of modern. Yeah, it'll be a combination of security measures. Obviously, I'm in the software business, so I'm familiar with some of them because we use them in our different products. I guess that point is weird to me because all along the team has been very pro-bot, very vocal anytime the question was asked. And I don't even know, it was brought up as a DAO proposal and passed. But if you look at what DAO proposals are there to do, I just don't even know if, that could be used as a suggestion to the team, whether the team necessarily really has to implement it, whether it has to, what it has to do with a DAO vote. So just something to be said. I was surprised. Like I said, the whole reason I started using the Archmage was they were very adamant that bots were all going to be. So to your point, though, obviously, if once bots come out of modern, they're going to be, everybody's going to be human that you're going to be playing. I think it might take a little bit longer to get a match because there's not as many people in each league. Obviously, we talked about the pools being directly affected. I think the pools are going to be a better situation for people because they're going to be, it's a static amount and there are going to be less people drawing from each pool. Unless you're in bronze, which I figured that a lot of people are going to fall into bronze or silver temporarily. I would figure that if you've been playing for a couple of years, you're going to at least want to playing in gold, So, but that's all, that's all speculation, right? But, like everybody's pointed out, I agree. This is, there's so many variables here. We can just cross our fingers and hope it works out for the best. And, keep your eyes on your account. Some people like to keep a lot more statistics. I know like Gathering likes to keep his statistics on his $10 account. Some people are very methodical like that. I just kind of keep generalizations in my head. Oh, I used to, like I can say that 2 weeks ago I was making 10 more chests per season in Diamond than what I did this last season. For some reason, my amount of chests is going down. Maybe it's because bots are coming out and going, into wild. I don't know. So Sean says, one advantage I have is I borrow a Max Chaos Legion and Rewards card deck through Nifty Arcade and have earned some extra SPS and DEC from prizes. Yeah, Sean, that's one of the great new things that's out there. I don't think they're making a lot of money, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen with that service because I've if you watch the town hall and he was recently on, so hopefully it keeps going because it's great for a person just coming into the game. I didn't have that when I came into the game, and it was just like jump in the deep end. Here, buy a bunch of cards, So, and we didn't really even have rentals. I'm trying to remember. I don't think when I first started we had the rental market. So it was just basically like, hey, learn what you like to play, buy a bunch of cards, and start playing. So yeah, I agree. That's a great service for people starting out. So Gathering says, I play in Wild and see how it goes. Paul says, what do you think the SPS rental market will look like? Oh, it's hard to tell. I know I've seen a lot of the people on, I don't want to say a lot, but I've seen several of the big players in SPS dump a lot of cards on the market selling to convert to SPS. And I was surprised by that. It's almost like there was a leak and they knew beforehand because there was a few big names, if you look out there on the blockchain, that a few days or a week ahead of the big announcement just like dumped a lot of stuff. And that's one of the reasons why we can see the attractive prices on cards right now, right? And I feel there's some people that are just going to completely liquidate and stop playing and just go at it from like more of a business kind of business approach. Just buy SPS and rent it out. hard telling what the rental's going to be like. I mean, the prices would have to be relatively low to be feasible. Otherwise, people would just buy SPS, right? I don't know. I can't really. It's just up in the air. Gathering says, OMG, I wish I had your Magic collection. It was fun to play with, and I played in a lot of tournaments. I still miss playing back in the heyday. I think what ruined Magic with me is as the sets kept coming out, and I hope that doesn't happen with Splinterlands, the cards became increasingly more detailed and more hard to understand, and the strategies were just crazy. It was. I liked the game, at the risk of sounding like an old guy, I liked the game the way it was, up through like Ice Age. I had certain strategies I used. I could wrap my head around them, and as they went along, the whole point. If you watch business, and we're on the hour here, but I just want to complete this point. If you watch card games, they get increasingly more complicated as time goes along because they need to come up with new stuff and put it out so people will buy new cards, right? And part of that, I understand that as a business, but as a person buying stuff, I don't have to like it, and I can choose to just not do that business. But I did like playing with the cards, and that's why I wanted to, get those nicer cards. I love dual lands. I'm a dual land head. If I got back into Magic, I'd want dual lands or whatever the newer equivalent is. Noragar, first of all, thanks for dropping by. I appreciate your comments on my video earlier yesterday. Says, I haven't done anything differently since the announcement. I have faith that things won't change all that much for most people who have had staking earned SPS all along like you have. Well, I guess that's another valid way to look at it. And it's also kind of what I've fallen back to, although I have changed my, my habits a little bit. I just can't be worrying about it because I was getting way too stressed out about it, and I don't need that in my life. So I kind of have fallen back to that. I'm trying not to worry about it. I'm trying to look forward and see what people are doing and try to make incremental changes instead of big, massive changes, expensive changes. And Gathering says, agreed, Noragar. So we can just, look forward, hopefully. And Paul says, Paul's going to have the last word here. I do appreciate everyone stopped by. Please leave a like on the video. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate it. I do try to reply to everyone's comments whenever possible. So if you have ideas, if you agree, if you disagree with something I'm talking about on a daily basis, please leave your ideas, and I'll respond and possibly make a video about it. If you have a better idea than me, or if you see something differently than I do, I'm all for that. Paul says we might be able to vote for the DAO rents out SPS to folks like new players and those that need it based on whatever rules we come up with. True. Hey, that's a good idea. I hadn't even thought about that. Have the DAO rent out SPS and the profits go back into the DAO. It's a good idea. And why not 1234 says they did say if SPS goes up, the amount needed may drop also. So just get what you can while it's pretty low. Yeah, I agree. I mean, another subscriber had said that it makes more sense for the levels of SPS that is needed to be staked for 100% R shares. I have to keep saying that just so people understand. I understand what I'm talking about. It makes more sense to me if that value is based on US dollars. So you say, okay, so to get into bronze 1, it takes 35 US dollars worth of SPS, what that value is at that time to be staked. Or to get into silver 1, it takes $100 or whatever the numbers are. It makes more sense to me that than to have this arbitrary number of SPS, which, like I said, if you say it takes I don't have the numbers up here, but if you say it takes 50 SPS to be at this level, it's worth so much now, but you and I know as well, you as well as I do know that the value of tokens can drastically go up or drastically go down due to many different factors they're implementing, and even some factors that are outside, but just say, for instance, it goes to 4 cents, which is roughly double what it is now. So now you're telling me that instead of, to get into bronze, instead of, $35, I need to $75. You can see what I mean. It's roughly doubles or triples. It would not be hard for it to go to 10 cents, right? Depending upon, new burning measures, all this staking measures that are going to play. And then down the road, you're saying, to get into the game, eventually you have to stake, $1,000 worth of SPS to be in bronze. I would hope it got that high. Everybody's hoping the SPS goes up, but at the same time, you're increasing the price to get into the game, right? Obviously, that's rentals aside, because personally, I've said this before. I said it in a comment in one of my videos, but if I get into a game, if I'm a new guy and I'm getting into a game to play, and you tell me, okay, so one of the requirements is to stake this much SPS, then I'm going to look at how much that costs to buy. I'm not going to look at how much that costs to rent. I had the same opinion on buying versus renting cards early on when I started playing after, rentals got bigger. I didn't really, and to this day, I don't rent a lot. If I want a card, I'll buy it. I'll have to usually sometimes save up a little bit, buy one BCX at a time or something like that, which I do know means it's more expensive. But it's just, everybody has a different thought process on it, right? And Clevin S says, word on the street is it's cheap to lease SPS, 1 to 5% of the value. Is that a good ROI for the leaseor? Otherwise, it ain't cheap. I would agree with those numbers. However, I don't know what they're going to be. But, I mean, the same argument is for renting cards, right? Right now, you can rent cards for dirt cheap. So you can rent out cards and you can play above your level, and then now you'll have to rent out the SPS. It's just another cost. So okay, we're a little bit over the hour, but I do want to say I appreciate everyone for dropping by, and I hope everyone is happy and healthy on your side, and I will see you on the flip side, hopefully next video in the next couple of days. Have a